let's go. It's time to be the GOAT. It's time to enter God mode, man, let's get it going. I wanna be the greatest, energy is overflowing. I know I'm stoking the fire, my desire's taking over, not time.
Okay, you beautiful friends, welcome back to the back of the semi-truck, and you could tell by the title, you could tell by the thumbnail, we are about to jump into Learning the Lore of Adventure Time Part 3, and this time around, we're jumping into Fionna and Cake. Now, I wanted to go with somebody else besides, Foot of a Ferret, but he seemed to have the shortest video on learning the lore about something when it comes to Fionna and Cake. I wanted something around 15 to 20 minutes, and his was about 15 minutes. Granted, it isn't necessarily the whole lore, but it's everything you need to know about Fionna and Cake. So I feel like that's going to be a really good primer for what Fionna and Cake was all about. I know pretty much in a nutshell, it's a gender swap version of Jake and Finn. So we got Fionna being the counterpart to Finn, and Cake being the counterpart to Jake. So I do know that much. Trying to think of anything else here at the beginning, but we are going from Foot of a Ferret's video, and then after this one is when we jump into specific storylines and diving deeper into those, such as the Mushroom War and just individual storylines. So if y'all have got a individual storyline to really delve into and really kind of nitpick on, go ahead and leave those suggestions down below, and we'll jump into those. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that other than learning the lore of Adventure Time is going to be an ongoing thing around this channel for the foreseeable future, as well as other stuff like learning the lore of whatever else we're learning the lore of. I don't know what else to say there. So, and we got Digging Deeper, which I'm doing with a TMNT. I know a lot about TMNT already, but I can always dig deeper. That's the gist behind that. So other than that, I'm going to shut up because it's 2.5 minutes in already, and put these headphones on, do the old switcheroo here on the screens, and if it hasn't happened yet, it's about to in 3, 2, 1, and play.
Adventure Time's just never gonna end, is it? This Cartoon Network classic from like 2010 ran for a whole 10 seasons, then scored an extra 4 specials only like a year later. And now the Adventure Time universe expands even more with the new spin-off series, Fionna and Cake. So where'd all this come from? Well, this junk goes all the way back to 2011 in Season 3, Episode 9 of Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake. This was a fun alternate universe story featuring an entirely gender-swapped version of the Adventure Time cast.
Balls. Okay, so this goes all the way back to then. See, this is why I should have picked, instead of doing Foot of a Ferret, I love Foot of a Ferret stuff. He does a great job with all that he does. But I should have picked somebody who goes pretty much episode by episode, delving deep into the lore. But then that ruins the fun of doing like the Mushroom War and Simon and Marceline and just individual storylines in general. But this is, wow, all the way back there. That is just crazy to think that that's where they started. So, yeah, so just a gender swap version of them. So, yeah. So this goes all the way, I think he said season 3. My gosh. Either way, let's continue and
Finn was now Fionna, Jake was Cake, Princess Bubblegum was Prince Gumball, Ice King was the Ice Queen, etc, etc. And speaking of the Ice King, the twist of the whole episode was that it was all a fanfiction made up by the Ice King. And now that little one-off episode from 12 years ago has become the springboard for a whole new, much more adult-oriented Adventure Time spin-off series. That's right, Ice King can swear now. And of course, another season of Adventure Time means now I gotta swoop in with my dumb voice and bad drawings to recap the whole series for you right here. Not to replace watching the show or anything, but just to be like, I don't know, a SparkNotes version. But I have to say now, Fionna and Cake isn't just some silly cartoon spin-off. This is a full canon continuation of the Adventure Time series, and it is not particularly friendly to newcomers.
Balls. Okay, right there, he's literally telling us it's not particularly friendly to newcomers. So if I were to decide to do reaction mode instead of commentary mode, where I'm pausing and, you know, talking and junk like that, reactionary, where I'm just like watching as it's happening and thinking out loud, because I got two different modes, by the way. If you are not familiar with this channel that much, this is commentary mode, where I pause, talk, y'all know the deal with commentary. Then there's reactionary mode, where I just hit that play button, watch the episode as it's happening, and then do my edits in there with all the dead space where I'm not saying nothing and reacting. So that would have sucked to do a reaction to this after I got done with, you know, the previous videos to this, because I was thinking about it. But if I've just got the basic lore right now of Adventure Time and haven't dove deeper into it yet, then this would have definitely been very unfriendly towards me. So, holy crap. But hopefully the screen that y'all see on y'all screen is what I've got here, where we've got her last name, Fionna Campbell. So I didn't know we had a last name in this universe. Did Finn have a last name? I don't know. Who cares? Let's continue and play.
Fully understand and appreciate the places this show goes, you kinda gotta know your Adventure Time lore. All 13 years of it. I'm not joking. This stuff goes pretty deep right out of the gate. So if you haven't seen it already, you may want to check out my other recap of the main Adventure Time series and the Distant Land specials to get a quick refresh on the mountain of lore this show is based on. And with all that said, this is everything you need to know about Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake. So, we start the series with Fionna and Cake waking up from a weird dream where they were in a magical world fighting evil and saving people and stuff, but that's silly. That's not what Fionna and Cake is. She's stupid. Fionna's not a fearless warrior in a magical world. She's just your average 20-something in a crappy apartment having trouble keeping a job. And Cake is just a cat. Regular cat.
Wait.
Look at my friend's cat. Regular cat, just like him.
Pause? Hold on. Is that being for real, or am I just stopping too soon and being like, nah, Fionna and Cake has got to be something different? I got a feeling I'm stopping just a little bit too soon, because this show cannot be about a 20-something-year-old with her apartment and her cat. Let's continue, because I think I'm stopping too soon to start commenting. But, you know, you never know. It might be all it's about. And play.
Fionna lives your average city sitcom lifestyle with her friends Gary Prince, Bubblegum, and Marceline, who I'm sure won't have their differences but discover they're two sides of the same coin and ultimately get together in a very sweet and romantic way. I have absolutely no reason to believe any of that will happen based on any past source material. So anyway, Fionna's having a bad day. She got fired from her job, Cake's acting up, and for some reason, neither of them can get that weird dream off their mind. Fionna keeps thinking about this ice prince she saw in the dream, and Cake has just become absolutely fascinated by ice stuff in general. Like, it makes her act all crazy. To the point that she ran off, jumped inside an ice cream vendor's cart, and just disappeared. Straight up vanished. Meanwhile, in more familiar territory, we find Simon Petrikov in the land of Oo. You remember him, right? That dude who put on a cursed crown that made him go crazy and become the Ice King? In the main Adventure Time finale, he was turned back into his normal self thanks to his old love, Betty, who summoned an unimaginable demon of chaos called Golb and then sacrificed herself to become Golb so that Simon could be safe. Yeah, like I said, this show really expects you to know your Adventure Time lore going in.
Pause. Oh my gosh. So it is truly about a girl and her cat. You know, granted, I've got a feeling that they're going to just hop into, you know, some dimensional portal to get there, but essentially it starts out with just, she's a girl in her 20s, you know, with an apartment, with a cat, and that's all it's about. What the frick? I'm sure it's a very good series, and I want to actually watch it firsthand, but holy crap, I just always thought it was like a counterpart, like a gender swap version of Finn and Jake, and that's all I thought the whole series was. But this is what it is. Okay, let's continue and play.
So Simon is not doing so hot either. He's a 20th century dude who just blinked back into consciousness in an insane, surreal, post-apocalyptic future full of magic and junk. Dude's like a living museum exhibit here. Literally. His house is also a museum exhibit for people to learn about the 20th century. Simon just doesn't fit in with all these new future humans living on an island full of clones of Finn's mom. Please know your lore before watching the show. But he also feels out of place in the more magical parts of Ooo too. Plus, his relationship to his past life as the Ice King is complicated, and that complicated relationship also extends to Fionna and Cake, the fanfic that the Ice King wrote. He hates being reminded of them, but they've actually caught on as kind of a popular story series with everyone in Ooo, so people are constantly asking him about it. Dude's just lost. He even kind of misses being the Ice King. He's like, things were so simple back then. Sometimes I even like to dress up as the Ice King. I've made the costume myself. I'd go to conventions and everything. There were a lot of people there dressed up like you, Finn.
Damn!
Oh, okay.
Wait.
Maybe not exactly like you now. Yeah, Finn's buff now. Doesn't really matter, just felt like pointing it out since Finn doesn't actually show up too much in this series.
Balls, wait. I'm just, oh my gosh. So Finn is in this series. I'm glad that I heard Foot of a Ferret tell us that Finn doesn't show up too much in the series. So, that is kind of a good thing in my opinion. Because if it is a sequel series, it's good to have the old people there. But it's also good to move forward with who you're trying to have it be about. So, I'm glad that they said Finn doesn't show up that much. But, oh my gosh. So, is Jake in it? That's something I would like to know, because where we last left off with Finn and Jake, they said that they would like to give life another try. So is this the second life that they're living? And did they start out as babies, or did they just kind of automatically was like, hey, we're still going to be the same age as we were? So, okay. That adds a bit of a kind of a kink in my head, but hey, older Finn, cool beans, whatever. Let's continue and play.
Anyway, back at his house, turns out Simon's been into some freaky stuff. He's been secretly working on a spell in order to open a portal to find Golb/Betty. But instead, a portal randomly opens in the back of his head, and out pops Cake. And eventually Fionna too. Oh, I get it. Fionna and Cake exist in a physical alternate dimension existing solely inside Simon's head. Okay, I see it. I get it. No.
Pause. Yes, I get it too. So, okay. So the little spell he did opened the portal in his head where that alternate dimension, literally, it's like if I had a fan fiction in my head, that whole universe would just be in my head. Holy crap, that's actually really inventive. So in his fan fiction, wait, hold on. In the fan fiction, it was a gender bent version of everyone in the land of Ooo, but in his head, they're just living a normal life, with an apartment, and they all have jobs, and interesting. But yeah, so they live in an alternate dimension that's within his head, and now somehow they end up out. So cool. I'm overanalyzing it in my head too much, so I get the gist of it though. They're in an alternate dimension that's located within his own head, and that's where their realm is, and it opened up when he was trying to find Golb, and poof, out with, Cake and Fionna. So hopefully Cake can talk, as well as, well, obviously Fionna can talk, but obviously if Cake was just a normal house cat, they couldn't talk before, so now they can. So yeah, okay, let's continue and Like,
seriously, that makes total sense, as weird as it sounds. Alternate universes are absolutely a thing in Adventure Time, going back to like season 5. See, there's this dude named Prismo the Wishmaster. He's a pink shadow on a wall who exists only in this thing called the Time Room. It's a little yellow cube in space. Prismo grants wishes to people, and those wishes tend to create new wish-altered realities. So Prismo also watches over the resulting multiverse. But you know, one day dude just got bored and decided to make his own universe. But after creating his characters, he realized he kinda just copied Finn and Jake and just ran with it. That's Fionna and Cake. But creating your own universe is a big, like, cosmic no-no. Prismo basically broke some kind of multi-dimensional law by creating an unauthorized world that is literally not allowed to be part of the multiverse. So to hide it, he just zapped it into the Ice King's noggin. Not like he was using it for all that much. But when Ice King lost his magic and turned back into Simon, the magical universe in his brain also got turned into just a normal town in like the late 90s or something. So that's how we got to here. And when Prismo sees that his world has gone rogue and crossed over into another, he panics, zaps Fionna and Cake into the time room, and is like, wait, why are you like that? And he snaps his fingers, and boom, Fionna and Cake are now on model. Cake is now a full-fledged magical talking creature, and Fionna got a costume change.
pause. Okay. So, that all makes sense now, but I do want to get some kind of... What? Oh, okay, I paused that at completely the wrong time, now that I'm looking at it, by the way, because my screen, hopefully it isn't like a millisecond or two off, but I'm looking at Simon's butt right now. But, nonetheless, either way, I need to definitely get into the lore and story of Prismo, I think they say his name is. Holy crap, that is crazy. So, they actually, holy crap, that is so mind-boggling that they actually incorporated that when, you know, he tucked it away deep inside of, you know, what's-his-face's head, you know, Ice King. And when Ice King turned back into Simon, then the whole universe reverted back to what, you know, a normal universe. And it's like, oh, that makes sense now. That's why it was just a normal universe as opposed to Fionna and Cake universe. All of that makes so much freaking sense now. So, holy crap. Awesome. I like it. Heck of a story. Excuse me. Almost did something I didn't want to do on camera there. But you know what? Hey, we're going to roll with this anyway. But that's awesome. Great storytelling. They're doing a good job with this series and connecting all the dots together. This is just so freaking crazy. Let's continue and get Simon's butt off my screen. So, play.
Prismo then zaps Simon into the room where we get to see his time bomb.
Never mind.
Prismo finds out what Simon's been up to, trying to open portals and junk, and they start arguing about it, blah, blah, blah. But they can't really waste too much time because then the Scarab shows up. The Scarab is a quote-unquote god auditor who's out here keeping cosmic entities in line. The crossover between two worlds, one of them being unauthorized, caught his attention, and now he's on the hunt to expose Prismo's crime, turn him into their boss, take down the unauthorized universe, and then take over Prismo's job to control the multiverse himself. That's bad. That's a lot of bad. So, in a last-ditch effort to save them, Prismo gives Fionna and Cake a remote control that lets them hop through the multiverse at will. The Scarab then traps Prismo in this weird little cube prison. Fionna, Cake, and Simon all escape, and just like that, the chase is on. Fionna and Cake are on the run, the Scarab's chasing them through the multiverse, and Simon just kind of there too. Well, okay, that's not fair. Once they're all safe in this random corn dimension, Simon does come up with a plan. In order to save Fionna and Cake's world and make it magical again, he's gonna find another magic crown in the multiverse and use it to become the Ice King again. Yeah, I know he said he kind of hated being the Ice King, but he also kind of hates himself now, so he doesn't really view his life as meaningful, so he's just kind of willing to like just toss it. And no one really questions that, so it's a hunt for the crown. Unfortunately, in this world, the crown was destroyed, straight down to ashes, but they were able to find one of the crown's jewels, using it to mod the remote to track the crown through other universes. So the gang just kind of hop from world to world for a couple of episodes, you know, meeting different universe versions of themselves, who are sometimes really cool, sometimes really lame, and sometimes seem really cool but turn out to be really lame, and you learn a lesson by the end.
Balls. Wow. You know, for me, I love multiverse, you know, sort of stories. You know, people are getting sick of the whole MCU, or at least as of recording this, because I've got to definitely qualify that. As of recording this, a lot of people are sick of the MCU and the whole multiverse type stuff they're doing. Granted, I get it. It needs to be a little more well connected in the whole MCU multiverse thing, but I absolutely love multiverse stuff. Growing up, the What If comic series was pretty big in the early 90s, and I really loved that series because it took one storyline and squished it all into one what if this happened instead type of situation. Or for DC Comics, you got the Elseworld stories that would say, hey, what if they took this path instead and they became this person? I love that kind of stuff. And just different versions, and I just like the idea of playing with that kind of stuff. So I love what I'm seeing with this. I'm not going to watch every episode of Adventure Time, the original series, but I might actually go back and watch each episode of this in general, just not in a reaction mode, but just this in general, because it feels like this storytelling is going to be really good. So yeah, I am really impressed with what I'm seeing with it. So yeah, and it looks like we've got about 7 minutes left of this video, which, hate to tell y'all, I'm going to turn into about 20 more minutes. So let's continue this and play.
Not the whole thing, no crown. Baby dimension. Baby dimension. Next! After a few hops, the gang lands in a version of Ooh that's just completely barren. No one and nothing anywhere. And to make things worse, their remote is completely busted, so they are stuck. So while they explore the wasteland, Simon tells Fiona all about Betty. How they met, fell in love, went on adventures, and how Betty kind of sacrificed a lot of her future just to be with Simon, in more ways than one. But the sentimental stories get cut short when the gang finds BMO. Hooray! But then BMO tells the gang that literally everyone is dead.
BMO is here! That's awesome! But everyone is dead according to BMO. That sucks. But hey, BMO's here. Awesome. And yeah, when he says everyone is dead, I think he's being truthful considering the crown that he's wearing and the lab coat as well. Either way, BMO's here. Let's watch and play.
Nah, poop. But BMO does try to fix the remote by hooking it up to their robot heart. Hooray! But it doesn't work. Poop. Oh, and BMO dies.
BMO's not here no more. Oh my gosh. But hey, BMO was here. That was pretty awesome for a second. Let's continue and play.
Again. Man, things are not going well. You know, it's times like these in the original series where the only way things could get worse is if the Lich showed up.
Oh, come on!
So, quick refresher, the Lich is one of the main villains from the original Adventure Time show. Pops up all the time. He's just this evil, monstrous, cosmic entity of death. And this dimension is one where he succeeded in his ultimate goal of eradicating all life on Earth. But you know, with no more life on the planet, dude's got nothing else to do. He's just kind of bummed out, so he's actually not a threat for once. And of course, with all life eradicated and the remote still busted, Fiona, Cake, and Simon are, yeah, they're pretty much toast. So reluctantly, Fiona reveals the crown. Yeah, well...
Pause. Fiona? You had the crown? My goodness. They didn't have to go through all these dimensions to end up at a dimension that was desolate. And there's more story here, obviously, so I'm going to shut up. We're going to let them continue and just see where we go from here and play. And I messed it up, but that's okay. We got other chances to do this. I know I say this every video, by the way, but the reason why I do this is because I don't screen record. I have to actually, you know, edit stuff, you know, like, you know, actual editing. So when I do this and when it's halfway in the air, that's when I have to restart everything. So let's continue and play. Darn it, I did it again. And
While exploring the remains of what used to be the Ice Kingdom with BMO, Fionna and Cake found some old home videos of the Ice King. And not only did Fionna find out where the Ice King hid the crown through these tapes, she also saw how miserable Simon was as the Ice King. So she did grab the crown, hoping Simon wouldn't have to use it, but there's no more options. Simon takes the crown and uses the magic of the Lich to reopen the portal in the back of his head so Fionna and Cake can jump back into their world. But once they're back and safe, the Scarab appears ready to strike. But then, the Lich hijacks Simon's spell, opening another portal that leads to Golb. Betty. Golbetty. It's Golb, but it's Betty. They just call her Golbetty, and I don't like it. And the Lich is like, I am so bored. Please tell me my new purpose. But then Golbetty turns him into a Tetris block. So he's dead, I guess? You can never really be sure with that one. But with him out of the way, Simon can finally try and talk to Betty. He tells her all about Fionna and Cake and his plan to become the Ice King again and save their world. But Golbetty is not having it. Remember, Betty spent multiple seasons of the original show trying to turn the Ice King back into Simon. That's why she's Golb in the first place. So to stop him, she zaps Simon to another universe where his consciousness takes over Shermie?
Pause. Okay, wow, this thing is a very, very, oh, jeez, it twists and turns in this whole thing. So where the heck are we going to hopefully we're going to revisit Fionna and Cake, and hopefully their world's going to be magical now. Oh, that explains that dream that no, wait, that doesn't make no sense. Either way, that's probably why they had that dream of magic and all that junk. But they were gender swap versions, and they come from the land of a different who cares? The end. But Shermie, I don't think I've explored the lore of Shermie, so I don't know who this character is. But Golbetty said, no, you're not going to become the Ice King. You're just going to be, your consciousness is going to be in this little fella. So, okay, that's where we're going with that. Yeah. So, cool. Wow. I don't know what to say anymore. Because this show is going a mile a minute. So, let's continue and find out how they get out of this one and play.
The silly little rabbit guy we only ever saw at the very, very end of the Adventure Time finale? Man, they're really pulling out all the obscure Adventure Time lore.
Pause. Okay, now I remember. Cause yeah, that was literally that moment where he's raising the sword up like Finn did in the original opening sequence, but it was at the end of everything. Okay, now it's clicking in my head. Okay, let's continue and play.
This one. While Simon figures out how to navigate all of that, his real body is still frozen back with Golbetty. Just in time for the Scarab, who's also there, to wake up, see the portal to Fionna and Cake's world still open in the back of Simon's head, and finally take his chance to kill Simon and eradicate the rogue universe. But of course, Golbetty's not gonna let that happen. She splits the Scarab into a bunch of tiny little Scarab beetles, but while that might have saved Simon, it doesn't stop the beetles from crawling through the portal and invading Fionna and Cake's world. Things go wrong very quickly. The Scarab beetles overrun Fionna and Cake's world and soon reform into the full-fledged Scarab, who then starts wreaking absolute havoc, zapping bits of the world completely out of existence. Fionna, Cake, and Gary and Marshall, who are actually dating now, huh? Who could have seen that coming? All try to fight back, but the Scarab is just too powerful. And seeing her world just crumbling around her, Fionna realizes that she doesn't want this world to be changed and turned magical. She wants the world she's had this whole time, and she's willing to fight for it so that everyone she knows and loves can either live or die as themselves. Meanwhile, Simon, as Shermie, finds a book on ancient artifacts that dimension's version of Simon wrote, which weirdly takes the form of a choose-your-own-adventure video game book gun thing, and the story is basically a complete allegory for Simon and Betty's relationship. And in playing the game, Simon realizes how often Betty sacrificed things in her life to be with Simon, and how he never really did the same for her.
Pause. Okay, there's a message in there for anybody who happens to possibly be going through the same thing. Check your relationship. Find out, hey, are you sacrificing just as much as your partner? That's a big little, That's a really big detail. That's a big lesson for anybody out there. I mean, I gotta sometimes slow down and think about that as well. Granted, I feel like I give up a lot for my relationship, considering I'm inside of a semi-truck, which means I sacrifice my time away from the house to make money for my wife, since the kids are all grown now. I sacrifice my time so that she can do anything and everything she wants to do. Granted, yes, she is choosing to become a special needs teacher. Great and honorable thing to do. Absolutely love her heart for that, because I think there is no one else in the world that a job like that is designed for, because my wife is such a caring individual when it comes to people with special needs. But that's a whole nother subject. But she definitely sacrifices her time away from me with me having this job. So in my head that makes sense, but I don't know if it makes sense when it came out. But yeah, same thing here. Betty sacrifices a ton, but Simon didn't seem to sacrifice that much, and he's looking back on it now like, yeah, I was kind of a prick. So, cool. Lesson there for lots of folks. So, I don't know why I had to stop and say it, but just felt the need. So, let's continue and play.
This revelation zaps Simon back into his own body, where he apologizes to Betty and realizes that his life isn't meaningless like he believed before. And with that, Simon's phone rings and Fiona tells him everything that's going on in her world. Simon nearly puts on the crown to try and help, but Fiona says no. Simon doesn't know what to do, so in a fit of rage, he throws the crown into the abyss. But then, he burps out a dandelion. Okay, this is Fiona's world, apparently. And he just kind of like knows that. He just is like instinctively, he's just like, oh, Fiona's world. What? It's a dandelion and it's pink. And Simon sends the dandelion through his head portal to Fiona. This all sounds so weird when you just have to write it out like this. Fiona makes a wish and blows on the dandelion, spreading its petals all across town. Mirroring this, Betty then picks up Simon and sends him flying back off to his own universe. And all of this, whether it was Go Betty or the dandelion wish or whatever, has actually made Fiona's world legit. It was no longer an unauthorized rogue dimension, it's now part of the multiverse. So all of the Scarab's damage just up and reversed itself. But at this point, Scarab doesn't really care. Authorized or not, he just wants to burn this universe to the ground. But back at the time room, Prismo finally breaks out of that little cube prison he was in and sees what's happening in Fiona's world. So he sends in a cavalry of every single friend Fiona and Cake made across the multiverse to help them fight, including this little squirrel guy with magic fruit from episode 3, who I totally forgot to mention. The magic fruit makes Fiona grow 100 feet tall, and she uses that strength to absolutely squash the Scarab. Their friends then steal the Scarab's weapon and toss it up to Cake, who then uses it to trap the Scarab in this weird little egg thing, and finally, the day is saved. Everyone helps rebuild Fiona's world after all.
Balls. Okay, that was a lot to absorb, but okay, so with the, was there magic there? Because Cake looked like a giant hammer that Fiona was wielding, and that's kind of, for me, that's like, okay, wait a second, and you know, her original world that she was in just then didn't have all that magic and stuff in it. So how in the world did, I know I'm thinking too much about it, and I really just need to watch the actual episode to find out some of these things. But yeah, okay, so somehow there was magic involved, and I'm presuming after everything's said and done, everyone's now going to not have magic in her original universe, which still throws me off so much that her original universe was just her, 20-something years old with an apartment and a cat. No magic, no nothing, just her and a cat. Boom. That's it. Oh, you know what? That actually reminds me of a show. And now I can't think of the name of the show, but I have a feeling that you all might know what I'm thinking of. And I did a reaction years ago to the original, you know, YouTube stuff of it. I think they did like a sequel series to it, on, because it was about a girl Spoilers, by the way. Granted, I'm not saying the name of the show because I can't think of it for some reason in my head. Oh, Bee and Puppy Cat. That's the name I was thinking of. Kind of reminds me of that to a small degree. Only on surface level. So, yeah. I don't know where I started with that rambling just then, but I'm going to end it right there and jump back into this. So, we got like 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half. I don't even know. But we're going to see where this goes from here. Might pause once or twice in between. I don't know. Let's just see where it goes. And play.
The chaos. The Scarab gets sentenced to become Prismo's apprentice in the time room, and they kind of become friends, I think. And Simon gets a new lease on life back in his own universe. They even show him actually in therapy. Love that for him. And that is Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake. This is the best thing Adventure Time's ever done. No joke, I think this is the best, most well-crafted story that has ever come out of the Adventure Time franchise. And the best part is that it uses every single bit of the show's history to do it. Seriously, how many other shows are able to be at the top of their game like this more than a decade after their premiere? It blows my mind. And if this is the note that Adventure Time finally ends on after 13 years, they would be ending on an amazing high note.
Pause. Hold on. Cake just used magic in the regular world. So that I guess that confirms that they got magic there. And they're just going to have it be like a normal world with magic. So okay. I don't get it, but you know, it is what it is, and I'll try to have some thoughts on his this is the best that Adventure Time has to offer, cause yeah, I got like a few seconds left, and I'm just gonna let this play out and then jump over there and talk about that afterwards. So yeah, let's continue and play.
But who am I kidding? The next 3 seasons, 5 spin-offs, and new mobile game tie-ins have probably already been announced by the time this video even goes up. How am I supposed to pretend you're not over if you never leave?
Okay, so I agree with his ending statement there, because how can you, oh my gosh, how can something just not stop eventually? Well, now you know what, actually, yeah, even My Little Pony Friendship is Magic ended at a certain point. So it was 10 years worth of friendship, but it still ended. But hey, if Adventure Time can still give that good of stuff, even with just getting the footnotes and just kind of the, hey, this is the highlights / cliff notes, because I know he said cliff notes in there a second ago. Well, not a second ago. That was about, you know, at the beginning of his video. But if Adventure Time, if the property can give us what this was, Fionna and Cake. Now, do I want to go back and watch every single episode of Adventure Time there is? That's what, 10 plus seasons of Adventure Time. Yes, they're 11 minutes a piece, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure later episodes are more than 11 minutes a piece. So they probably did full-on episodes at a certain point and all that stuff. But with Fionna and Cake, I feel like I want to actually watch that by itself, because as he was going through this, I was familiar enough with the lore, thanks to Foot of a Ferret's other videos. I was familiar enough with it to understand exactly where we were in all of this storyline. So that's great. I want to know so much more about this show right there, because I think I would like Fionna and Cake more than Adventure Time with Finn and Jake, because that just seems like it would be better. And I agree with him when he says this is the best stuff that Adventure Time has put out, because it seems like such I can't get words out of my mouth now. It just seems like such a cohesive story that it just works together so freaking well. And you just, I don't know, it just feels like it's just really great storytelling. Because heck, even Simon in there learns that, you know what, I sucked as her boyfriend. She gave up so much for me, and I was ungrateful. Pretty much in a nutshell, he became a better person. Yeah, he didn't want to become Ice King no more, but he, you know, without Betty, he felt like his life was meaningless. Just so many good things in it. And Fionna and Cake, this whole freaking time, this whole time, they started out as just a girl in her apartment with a cat. I had no freaking clue on that. That still bewilders me. No clue. Granted, yes, started out technically as a fan fiction from Ice King, all that good stuff. Technically started that way. But, yeah. At the end, though, when Simon became normal, let's put that in quotation marks. When Simon became normal, her world also became normal. So, in all reality, you know, everything seems to, it just, gosh, everything fits so freaking well together within this. I don't know. I wish my mind is just going 15 different directions all at once because of this. Because that was an interwoven story that woved so freaking well together. So hopefully all my afterthoughts there were halfway in a cohesive unit. I don't know. I'm hoping. I doubt they are, but I hope it is. So, with all that said, I'm shutting up. I'm passing it off to y'all. Let's jump down there to those comments together. Y'all know it. I can't get words out of my mouth. Holy crap. It's been a long day for me, by the way. But let's go ahead and pass it off to y'all. Let's jump down there to that comment section, have us a conversation, all that good stuff. So y'all know the drill by now. Leave your comments, hit the like, tickle to subscribe if you're new. Don't be texting and driving. Watch what you love and love what you watch. And take it away, Mr. Rogers.
I like you just the way you are.